Now to the Middle East, and tensions between Lebanon and Israel are escalating nearly a year after a ceasefire that was supposed to bring calm to the region. More than 500 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, most of them Hezbollah fighters. Israel accuses the Iran-backed group of rebuilding its arsenal. Hezbollah refuses to disarm, saying it needs weapons to defend Lebanon. Caught in the middle, the country's civilians are once again living in fear of a new war. Our correspondents Sarah Tait and Mohammed Krete report from Beirut.
The sound of Israeli drones hovering over Beirut. For many residents, it's an almost daily reminder of wars they hoped were over. In her studio in the Lebanese capital, artist Aya Dibs channels that unease into her work. Her war-related artwork has been featured by prestigious international NGOs and film festivals.
This drawing illustrates the drone buzzing. It's so annoying that sometimes I can't tell if it's actually there or only in my head. We try to live normally, but everything around us is abnormal. We hear that the south is still being bombed daily. I live here in Beirut, but my parents live in the south. But even here in Beirut, relatively far away from the bombing, the drones are an everyday reminder that war is coming, or not. We never know.
Her sketches captures the fears of a generation that grew up between ceasefires, seemingly never far from the next war.
All my friends left. Literally all of them. In Lebanon, the idea of living abroad is always there because there's no stability here. We thought that the next generations might be spared that decision. But I realized that even though we all try to stay, we all end up leaving because we lack safety and stability. And we have no prospects here.
This latest conflict has deepened Lebanon's already severe economic and political crises and has led to even more people wanting to leave the country. The ceasefire may have eased the bombing, but not the fear. With tensions rising along the border again, Lebanon finds itself on the brink of another devastating war. Aya is part of a generation that knows what it means to live through war.
My anxiety keeps rising. I feel angry and I'm less tolerant. Even when I try to create my own space, it feels like everything is out of control. We live in a country where we're always waiting for something to happen.
For Aya and many others, the question isn't if war will return, but when.
I'm trying to cope with the situation and accept that we're going through hardship. I feel down, but I will keep trying to do things that amuse me. I will keep trying to do things that help me calm down and carry on.
In a country caught between uncertainty and resilience, Aya's art has become both a coping mechanism and a reminder of what's at stake for Lebanon.
And joining us now from Beirut is Mohanad Haj Ali, Deputy Director for Research at the Malcolm H. Kerr Carnegie Middle East Center in Beirut. Thanks for being with us. Dr. Haj Ali, give us a sense of what's at stake right now for Lebanon.
Thank you. What we have is basically a country which is stuck in between a war and peacetime. It's not a full war at the moment, but it's not peace either. We have strikes, you have attacks in South Lebanon. 1/3 of those killed in these strikes are actually civilians. We're talking about women and children. Civilian infrastructure is being hit. The country cannot really move on from this state in which it was in a war, but not in a peace, and it's stuck. It can't really move into financial recovery. It doesn't have security stability. So in a sense, there's a lot of stake for Lebanon. It's a country which cannot move on from the state of war that it was in.
So we have a situation where Israel is striking targets in Lebanon. It says Hezbollah is rearming the Iran-backed militant group. In your view, does Hezbollah present a significant threat to Israel at this moment?
A very diminished one, in the sense that, they're saying that the organization is rearming, but from where? The Hezbollah influence over the airport has been severed. The government took some serious steps, which were praised by the United States, an ally of Israel. And also, the Syrian regime is gone. So there's a new regime in Syria, which is at an opposing end from the Iranian regime and the Iranian network, and specifically from Hezbollah. It's actually a declared Hezbollah enemy. And they can't smuggle weapons through Syria. They can't smuggle weapons through the airport. Where are they smuggling weapons from? And if they are, at which scale are we talking about? Israel has destroyed thousands of Hezbollah targets, warehouses, etc. The organization has really failed to respond. We passed the mark of a year since or now we're going to hit the year mark of a ceasefire last year, and Israel has been striking Hezbollah daily. Where are they rearming, in the sense that are they replacing or replenishing whatever is being destroyed by Israel? I don't think so. They're not capable of doing that. They don't have the supply lines for that. They can't, but they're definitely, what we can say is that Israel has lost perhaps the element of surprise, because it's always striking the organization. Right. And I think, perhaps they're running out of intel on it. But at the same time, there's no political way out. So the president has announced his willingness to negotiate, but I think we're stuck in a middle ground, in a gray zone that the country is not able to move on from.
Now, you co-authored an article recently which centered on the increased use of Israeli drones in southern Lebanon. You called it a remote occupation by Israel. What do you mean by that?
It's the first, I think it's one of the first cases in which we look at a whole population governed by drones. Drones are controlling the daily life of thousands of people living in border town regions, and these drones, they control where people can go, they control the movement.
What do you mean?
How does that work? They also monitor the conversations.
Can you help us visualize that? What do you mean that the drones monitor people and control where they go and monitor conversations?
The drones show up and search individuals on the streets. There are multiple cases reported on that, which I mentioned in the article. The drones, in certain cases, broadcast messages. There's a video of that, in which a drone has a massive speaker power, and it's broadcasting a message to a whole town about an individual which is campaigning for people to return to their homes. Israel wants these areas to be depopulated. The border towns, they want them to be depopulated. They don't want any return. They've been striking lots of reconstruction material, reconstruction tools in these areas, and also targeting engineers who are working on the return of the population to these regions. They want a buffer zone, but without the population, not only without weapons, without the population itself. And I think now they're calling it a free economic zone, which will benefit everyone and will be kind of under the control of kind of a shared sovereignty reality, which I think Lebanon is refusing and will continue to refuse. And this is where I think we're stuck in the gray zone, in which Lebanon wants people to return to these towns and villages. Right. Hezbollah is basically paralyzed, unable to respond. And the drones are basically occupying an area without the need for foot soldiers on the ground.
Mohammed Haj Ali from the Malcolm H. Carnegie Middle East Center in Beirut. Thank you very much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
Bente Scheller is head of the Middle East and North Africa division at the Heinrich Böll Foundation here in Berlin. And I asked her about Israel saying it's targeting Hezbollah fighters and Hezbollah saying it's abiding by the ceasefire requirements. She gave us her assessment of where the truth probably lies.
Well, I think it is somewhere in the middle, because I'm absolutely sure that Hezbollah will try everything to gain back its former strength. However, conditions are so much more difficult for Hezbollah now, because the land road they always used for weapons transports through Syria now is not available for them any longer. And so I think that the group will remain quite weak despite their efforts.
Yeah, Israel has certainly weakened that Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas axis over the last few years, but there are reports, of course, and what we're talking about is that making attempts to re-strengthen, regroup, rearm. What's the current state of play with that axis?
This axis was not in a good shape before. I mean, Hamas and Hezbollah stood on different sides in the war in Syria for many years. Only in 2017, they rearranged their relationship, but trust never came back. So Hamas for Iran was not a most trusted group anyway. And therefore, I think now, after all that has happened because of the October 8 massacres, the weakening of Hezbollah and the direct attacks on Iran, the relationship has not improved. Therefore, I think for the Axis, we don't need to worry as much as for national groups, national armed non-governmental groups, as well as Iran's arms program.
And what about inside Lebanon and this disarming process? Does the Lebanese army really have any power against Hezbollah in Lebanon?
I think they have really shown much more effort than at any time before to disarm Hezbollah, but they are in a bad shape. Hezbollah was always better equipped and better financed than the Lebanese army. And there was the promise of an international donors conference to strengthen the army, but this has not yet happened. Therefore, I think they are doing what they can, but their hands are tied.
Yeah, certainly in a better position perhaps than they were before. What do you think is needed then for Lebanon to become a Hezbollah-free country, or is that even a realistic prospect?
Well, I think the Lebanese state really needs to continue with reforms. We have a more promising prime minister than we had before. We have more respect for the Lebanese government that currently is in place. The Lebanese army is a really well-respected group and institution inside the country. If this can be strengthened, I think we will really be in a better position. However, for that, also a full withdrawal of Israel from the south of Lebanon would be necessary, whereas at the moment we see that they are rather establishing permanent structures there, and this is not helpful. This helps Hezbollah. And of course, we will need a process that is accompanied internationally, because the Lebanese army, no matter how much we improve and invest in it, will probably not be able to carry out the disarmament process on its own. But unfortunately, the UNIFIL mandate is expiring next year. It has not been extended, and that is a problem we should seek for a successor mission.
Yeah, and the civilians getting caught in the fray, as always, as we saw in that report. Bente Scheller, thanks very much for that. Bente Scheller, head of Middle East and North Africa division at the Heinrich Böll Foundation in Berlin.
Thank you.